New York State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision. To accept this free call, press 1 to...
Pac, first of all, do you want me to call you Pac, or you want me to call you by your name, Jose Llaca?
Well, I've always said, the name Pacualito from the streets. You understand? I feel there's a character that's from a closed chapter. It's a different person. I'm a different person today. So I try to disassociate myself with that because people equate that name to the 80s and the 90s in the streets and, all the stuff that was going on back then. So I'm really, I'm okay with you want to call me, people call me Pacual, you could call me Jose, doesn't matter. I try to stay away from Pacualito. There's people that still call me that name. I would prefer to stay away from it because I feel that's in the past. And about me, I could tell you, that I was born and raised in Washington Heights in New York City. I was born and raised to a single, my mom's. It was me, my mom's, and my little sister. We came up in a time when, the Dominicans, the diaspora of Dominicans coming from Dominican Republic, and she showed up here, my mother being, with her sisters, not knowing a lick of English, and they wanted to do better for themselves, and they wanted to have a better life, and it's hard, especially when you're a single mother, to be able to provide for your kids. And I come from a neighborhood that there was a lot of drug selling. There was a lot of drug selling going on in the neighborhood, and that's what we gravitated to because we were on survival mode.
What led you to go to the streets?
It's like we come from poverty. We come from a poor place, right? And my mother couldn't really provide. She could provide the necessities, but, I'm a young man. I was a young teenage boy, and I saw people in the neighborhood. The neighborhood that I come from, Washington Heights, was the cocaine distribution center for the Medellin, cartel.
Wow.
The drugs that were being sold in that neighborhood were coming straight from, Pablo Escobar from the other side from Colombia, and there was an influx of money, illegal money. And we saw that, we saw guys. I remember I used to work in a flower shop when I was a kid, and there was this one guy that I used to call him Little Mr. T. This guy used to walk in there with, 6-7 pounds of gold on his neck and chain.
That's crazy.
That kind of attracts, especially when you don't have, there was a guy named Ferrari Franklin. Why? Because he had a Ferrari. There was another guy in the neighborhood named Clint. He had a Ferrari also.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple of Porsches. There was a guy named Yayo, Santiago Polanco. He had a Goldwing Mercedes-Benz. And we wanted to emulate these guys. We wanted to be like them because we saw them as being men of success. We saw them as being men of respect, and we wanted that for us. So, you grow up with a bunch of other young men, and you gravitate towards it. You want that for yourself, and that's what kind of led me. Being poor and not having, and seeing, what I can have if I take that fork in the road. Instead of doing making the right decisions and making the wrong decisions, and that's what led me to hit those streets, man.
No, I mean I could feel it, man, because coming from that time, and I believe that shout outs to the new generation, but that generation was a whole different story. I come from the Heights as well. I don't get my information from Google, nothing like that. I get it from sources because I'm from the community as well. But a lot of people, I'm a little confused. A lot of people tell me that they gave you 95 years, that they gave you 100 years. I want to hear it from the source's mouth. Big brother, how many years they really gave?
Well, eventually, they came up with an indictment, 158 count indictment, and there was 141 people. I mean, there was 41 people on the indictment, and 9 of us went to trial. And after the trial, the judge, Leslie Crocker Snyder, she was dubbed by the New York tabloids as being New York's toughest judge. At the end of the trial, when we got sentenced, she gave me specifically 116 and 2/3 years to life.
Wow.
The 9 of us that went to trial, it aggregated to a sentence to over 868 years and 2/3. The highest sentence being given to Fat Danny Rincon, 158 years.
Wow.
And the lowest sentence given to, I think he's